I never thought I'd be the guy on a relationship advice subreddit, but here I am, pouring my heart out, hoping someone can relate or at least help me make sense of what just happened. My name is Alex, and I was married to a woman named Jessica. We had been together for 5 years, and honestly, I thought we were a solid couple. We both worked hard, shared similar values, and were excited about our future. But everything changed in a matter of weeks, and I'm still reeling from the whirlwind. The trouble started subtly. Jessica, who was always so open and communicative, began to pull away. At first, I chalked it up to stress from her upcoming citizenship test. She had been preparing for it for months, and the pressure was palpable. I wanted to be supportive, so I would encourage her and help her with the study materials. However, something felt off. She started coming home later, her phone seemed to be glued to her hand, and she would often leave the room to take calls. I tried not to read too much into it, but intuition is a powerful thing, and mine was screaming at me. I remember one evening specifically, she came home smelling of perfume that wasn't hers. It was sweet and floral, definitely not one of her usual choices. I raised an eyebrow but decided to let it slide because I didn't want to sound paranoid. After all, she was studying hard, and maybe she wanted to treat herself. But then came the night I accidentally stumbled upon the truth. There was a weekend when Jessica had planned to meet her study group for a final review before the test. I decided to surprise her by preparing her favorite dinner for when she got home. She had left her phone on the kitchen counter, and when I heard a notification sound, curiosity got the better of me. I picked it up. I know I shouldn't have, but I needed to know if she was feeling as overwhelmed as she claimed. What I found instead turned my world upside down. A message from a number I didn't recognize popped up. "Can't wait to see you again, babe. Last time was so hot." My stomach dropped. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. I thought I was going to be sick. I scrolled through their conversation, and it was clear that the study group was just a cover. She was having an affair with her citizenship test instructor. My blood ran cold as I read their back and forth, filled with flirty comments and plans to meet up. The betrayal hit me like a brick wall, and I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak swell inside me. I shut the phone off and sat down, trying to process what I had just learned. All the signs that I had ignored suddenly became glaringly obvious. The late nights, the secrecy, the change in her behavior, it all made sense now. I felt so foolish for trusting her unconditionally while she betrayed me. It was time to confront her. I was done being in the dark. When Jessica walked in later that evening, I was waiting for her. She had that same bright smile on her face, the one that used to light up my whole day, but now it felt like a hollow mask. I confronted her, and the look on her face was one of shock, followed by anger. She tried to deny everything at first, claiming it was just a misunderstanding, but I had the evidence right there. She spun a web of excuses, telling me it was just flirting and nothing serious. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry at her pathetic attempts to brush off her betrayal. As the confrontation escalated, I felt anger bubbling to the surface. Every lie she told cut deeper. I had supported her through every study session, every moment of doubt, and this was how she repaid me. She threw out phrases like "I was just confused," and "you haven't been there for me lately," which felt infuriatingly hypocritical. How could she blame me for not being emotionally available when she was the one who had betrayed my trust? The emotional turmoil took hold of me in waves. I was angry, hurt, and confused all at once. The woman I loved had shattered my reality. I spent that night tossing and turning, grief washing over me in relentless tides. It felt surreal that the person I was supposed to trust with my heart had been unfaithful. The betrayal stung more than I ever thought possible. I had to decide how to move forward. The thought of leaving her was daunting, but I also knew I couldn't stay in a relationship built on such a deep betrayal. I needed to reclaim my life and my happiness. I had built a life with Jessica, but I couldn't ignore the gaping hole where love and trust once resided. As I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, a sense of clarity began to emerge. I realized that the love I had for Jessica was not enough to justify staying in a relationship marred by infidelity. I deserved more than her lies, and I wouldn't allow her betrayal to define my worth. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversations to come. I had a decision to make, and it had to be for me. The next morning came with a heavy heart. I woke up to the morning sun streaming through the curtains, casting a soft glow over the room we had shared. It felt foreign now, almost cold. Jessica was still asleep, but I couldn't bring myself to look at her. I felt as though I was living in a nightmare, and I wanted nothing more than to wake up and realize it was all just a terrible dream. But it was my reality. I knew I had to confront her again. The night before had been a whirlwind of accusations and defensiveness, and I needed to have a calm, honest discussion about what had happened. I needed answers, and I needed to understand how she could betray me so completely. But I also needed to be prepared for whatever response she might give, including more lies. She had a knack for twisting words to fit her narrative, and I couldn't let her manipulate the situation any longer. After a long shower, I took a moment to gather my thoughts. I had a clear vision in my mind of what I wanted to say to her, but I was still wrestling with the emotions bubbling under the surface. I didn't want to yell or throw accusations. I wanted to be firm and collected. I deserved closure, and I wouldn't settle for anything less. When Jessica finally stirred and sat up in bed, I could see the remnants of sleep on her face. She looked disheveled, but then again, so did I. I took a deep breath and summoned the strength I needed. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady but quiet. Her eyes darted to mine, and I could see her mind racing. "About what?" she asked, her feigned innocence dripping with the same rehearsed lines. "About last night, about you and your instructor." I took a moment, searching for the right words. "I know about your affair, Jessica. I saw the messages." For a moment she froze, staring back at me as if I'd just slapped her. I could see the wheels turning in her head, processing the reality of being caught. "Alex, I interrupted, feeling the anger rise again. "I don't want to hear your excuses or your lies. Just be honest with me. Why did you do it?" She hesitated, her gaze shifting to the wall as if she were searching for an escape. I was feeling overwhelmed with the pressure of the test. I thought it was harmless flirting, honestly. I didn't think it would go this far. "Harmless? You slept with him?" I shouted, my voice echoing in the silence of the room. "You betrayed me, Jessica, and you think it's just flirting. Do you have any idea how that feels?" Her eyes welled with tears, and for a moment I felt a pang of sympathy. But then I remembered the messages, the way she was lying right to my face. "You don't understand," she continued, her voice trembling. "You've been so focused on your job, and I felt alone. I thought this was just a way to cope." I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. "Alone? You thought cheating on your husband would help. That's your excuse. You didn't even give me a chance to support you. You just went behind my back." "I was scared, Alex," she cried, her tears streaming down her cheeks. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I thought I was going to fail the test. I didn't want to let you down." "Let me down?" I felt a mix of disbelief and rage. "You've let me down 100 times over with this betrayal. You didn't even think about how it would affect me or us. You didn't care." We went back and forth, each of us digging deeper into our emotions. Jessica was desperate, trying to justify her actions, while I was steadfast in my resolve to confront the reality of our situation. I could see that she was trying to play the victim, but I wasn't having it. I was done playing games. The trust was shattered, and no amount of tears or excuses could fix that. Eventually, the conversation began to shift as I stood my ground. I told her that I couldn't live like this anymore, that I needed to consider my own well-being. I didn't want to be in a relationship where I had to question everything she said. I felt the anger ebbing away, replaced by a profound sadness at what we had lost. We were both at a crossroads, and I needed to make the decision that was best for me. After a long, tense silence, I finally spoke. "I think it's best if we take a break. I need time to think about everything and figure out what I want moving forward." The look on her face was a mix of confusion and devastation. "A break? You can't be serious." "I am. I need to process this, and I can't do that with you here pretending everything is okay." With that, I turned on my heel and left the room. I needed space to breathe, to think about everything that had happened, and to find clarity in the chaos. I retreated to the living room, where I sank into the couch, my mind racing. I felt like I was in a fog, trying to grasp at the threads of my life that were unraveling. As I sat there, I reflected on the emotional journey that had led me to this moment. I felt a sense of anger, sadness, and confusion all intertwined. The woman I had loved was still in the house, but the person I thought I knew was gone. All I could think about was how I had poured my heart into our marriage while she had been unfaithful. I wasn't sure what the future held, but one thing was clear. I had to reclaim my peace of mind. I had to find a way to move forward, no matter how difficult it would be. It was time to think about what I truly wanted from life, and most importantly, what I deserved. The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. I had decided to take a break from Jessica, but the reality of being in the same house with her was suffocating. We were like strangers sharing a space, avoiding each other as much as possible. The silence was deafening, filled with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. I spent the days at work, trying to immerse myself in my responsibilities, while the nights were filled with restless tossing and turning, my mind preoccupied with thoughts of betrayal and heartbreak. Jessica tried to reach out, attempting to engage me in conversation or asking if I wanted to talk about what happened, but I wasn't ready to have those discussions yet. Each time she approached me, I felt the familiar anger rise up within me. How could she act like everything was normal after what she had done? I would give her a curt reply, signaling that I wasn't interested in talking. Every contact felt like a raw wound reopening, and I needed time to heal. One evening, about a week into our separation, I returned home later than usual. I had gone out with a couple of friends who knew what was happening and wanted to support me. They encouraged me to talk about my feelings, to let out the anger and pain. We had shared some drinks which helped numb the ache, but as I walked into the dimly lit apartment, I felt the familiar heaviness settle back on my shoulders. Jessica was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She looked up as I walked in, her eyes hopeful but wary. "Hey," she said softly, "how was your night?" I shrugged, not wanting to divulge too much. "Fine." There was an awkward pause, and I could feel her anxiety radiating off her. "Do you think we could talk?" "I think we really need to." I sighed, knowing that I couldn't keep avoiding the inevitable. The anger had simmered down a bit, replaced by a growing need for clarity. "Okay, let's talk," I said, my voice lacking enthusiasm. Jessica took a deep breath as if preparing for a difficult conversation. "I know things have been tense between us. I want to apologize truly. I messed up and I'm so sorry for what I did. I regret it every day." I stared at her, feeling the walls I had built around my heart start to crack. "Do you even understand the impact of what you did?" I asked, my voice steady but strained. This wasn't just a mistake, it was a betrayal that shattered everything we built together. "I know," she replied, her voice trembling. "I didn't think it would mean anything, I just got caught up in the moment. I was feeling so overwhelmed and I let it get out of hand." Her excuses felt weak, but I tried to listen. "So because you felt overwhelmed, you decided to sleep with someone else. What about the commitment we made to each other?" "I didn't think about that in the moment," she admitted, her eyes welling with tears. "I was selfish and I regret it. I don't want to lose you, Alex. I want to make things right. Do you really think that's enough? Can you really fix this?" I shot back, my frustration boiling over. "You can't just say you're sorry and expect everything to go back to normal. Trust is broken and it doesn't just heal overnight." "I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn your trust back," she pleaded, her voice filled with desperation. "I'll go to therapy, we can work on things together. I'll cut ties with him. I want my husband back." As I listened to her, I couldn't help but feel a flicker of something. Was it hope, or was it just the ghost of the love we once shared? I wanted to believe her, to think that we could somehow salvage our relationship, but the memories of her betrayal loomed large. "It's not that simple," I said, my voice softer now. "You can't erase what happened." "I know," she whispered, wiping her tears. "But I want to show you that I can change, that I can be better." I took a moment to process everything she was saying. There was a part of me that wanted to believe her, to think that we could work through this together, but I had to protect myself too. "I need to think about it, Jess. I can't just jump back into this. My heart is broken and I need time to figure out what I want." She nodded, her expression a mixture of understanding and despair. "I get it. Just please don't give up on us yet." With that, the conversation shifted. We began to discuss what went wrong in our relationship, how we might approach rebuilding it if I were willing to try. I had loved her once, and maybe, with time and effort, there could be a path forward. It was a long shot, but at least we were finally talking honestly. As we delved deeper into our emotions, I realized that for the first time since the betrayal, I felt a glimmer of hope. We discussed the importance of communication, the need for transparency, and what we wanted out of our relationship moving forward. Still, I knew it would take a lot of work and it wouldn't happen overnight. I didn't have all the answers and I was still grappling with my feelings, but I felt a little less lost. We agreed to take things slowly, to not rush into anything until we both felt ready. It was a small step, but it felt like a step in the right direction. For now, we were willing to give it a chance. But deep down, I also knew that trust was fragile. It would take time to build back what had been lost, and only time would tell if we could truly heal from this. I resolved to take it one day at a time, hopeful yet cautious, as I navigated the path ahead. The days turned into weeks, and I found myself in a strange limbo. Jessica and I were trying to rebuild our relationship, but I often felt like we were walking on eggshells. There were moments when I would catch her looking at me, her eyes filled with hope mixed with fear. She wanted to prove herself, to show me that she could be the wife I deserved, but the reality of her betrayal lingered in the background like a dark cloud. We began attending couples therapy, something Jessica suggested as a way to navigate the rough waters we found ourselves in. I was hesitant at first, but I knew we needed an objective perspective to help guide our conversations. The therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Parker, encouraged us to express our feelings openly without fear of judgment. It was a safe space, and for the first time I felt like I could voice my hurt and anger without holding back. In our sessions, we explored the underlying issues that led to Jessica's infidelity. I talked about how her withdrawal during her citizenship preparations had made me feel isolated and unimportant. Jessica admitted that she had felt overwhelmed and unsure of herself during that time, but she also recognized that it was no excuse for her actions. It was eye-opening for both of us, and each week we began to peel back the layers of our relationship, revealing the vulnerabilities and insecurities that had been buried under the surface. As the sessions progressed, I found myself torn between hope and skepticism. One day, Jessica brought up the idea of having a weekly date night, a chance for us to reconnect outside of the therapy environment. At first, I resisted, fearing it would feel forced or like we were pretending everything was fine. But as time went on, I realized that we needed those moments together to remind ourselves of the love that still existed beneath the pain. Our first date night was a simple dinner at a local Italian restaurant, a place we had visited countless times before. The ambience was warm and inviting, and as we sat across from each other, I felt an odd mix of nostalgia and wariness. Jessica looked beautiful, her eyes bright and eager, and for a moment, I could almost forget the turmoil that had brought us to this point. We shared stories and laughter, and I felt a flicker of the connection we once had. But as the night wore on, a nagging doubt crept into my mind. I found myself drifting back to the thoughts of betrayal, feeling a sharp pang of hurt every time I saw her smile. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still missing, that the trust we had built together over the years had been irrevocably shattered. Each laugh we shared felt like an attempt to cover up the cracks beneath the surface, and I wasn't sure if I could ignore them. That night, as we drove home in silence, I broke the tension. "It felt nice to be out together," I said cautiously, testing the waters. "But it's still hard for me, you know. I'm trying to move forward, but the feelings are still there." Jessica nodded, her expression serious. "I know. I'm sorry if I ever make you feel like everything is okay when it's not. I want to be patient and let you heal at your own pace." Her words resonated with me, and for the first time in a while, I felt a sense of understanding and compassion between us. It was the willingness to face the discomfort together that began to build a fragile bridge over the chasm her actions had created. But just as I started to feel a glimmer of hope, a different kind of darkness loomed on the horizon. One evening after therapy, I received a text message from an unknown number. My heart raced as I opened it, recognizing it as a message from Jessica's affair partner, the instructor. "I hope you're not trying to win her back. She belongs to me now." My stomach dropped. My first instinct was to show Jessica, to confront her about this new twist, but the rational part of my mind told me to take a breath first, that I needed to process this before throwing another bomb into an already fragile situation. I was furious, but I also felt my resolve strengthening. This was not just about repairing our relationship anymore. It was about reclaiming my dignity and setting boundaries. That night when Jessica came home, I felt the tension in the air. I decided to wait until after dinner to bring it up, hoping that the relaxed atmosphere would allow for a productive conversation. But as we sat at the table, I could see her trying to push away the worry she felt. The cracks were still there, and I knew I had to address them. "Jessica, there's something I need to tell you," I started, my voice steady. "I got a text from your instructor." Her eyes widened in surprise, and I could see the color drain from her face. "What did it say?" I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "It said that you belong to him, and honestly, I don't know how to process this right now." Silence hung heavy in the air. I watched as her expression shifted from shock to guilt. "Alex, I swear I'm done with him. I thought we were past this, that we were moving forward together. But how can I trust that?" I shot back, my frustration spilling out. "You can't just say you're done and expect me to believe it. This text proves that he thinks he can still have you, and it makes me feel like I'm fighting an uphill battle." "I want to be with you," she insisted, her voice rising in desperation. "I want to fix this. I'm committed to you." Her emotions were raw, and I could see the sincerity in her eyes, but the reality was I was standing at a crossroads. I couldn't allow myself to be a backup plan. I needed to put my foot down to reclaim my power. "I need some space to think," I said, my voice calm yet firm. "I can't keep doing this if there are lingering connections to him. I need to know you're fully committed to making this work." As I spoke, I felt a newfound determination take hold. I wasn't just going to sit back and let myself be tossed around by her choices. This was my life too, and I had every right to protect my heart. Jessica nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I understand," she whispered, and in that moment I realized that I was no longer just responding to her actions. I was taking charge of my own life. The road ahead was uncertain, but I felt ready to navigate it, even if it meant making tough choices along the way. Trust would take time to rebuild, and I was prepared to set boundaries to ensure my heart was protected. It was my turn to take control, and I was determined to find a way forward, one that honored my feelings and allowed for healing without the threat of betrayal hanging over me. After that tense confrontation, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. I realized that I had spent too long being reactive to Jessica's choices, allowing her betrayal to dictate my emotional state. It was time for me to shift the focus back onto myself and my own healing. I needed to reclaim my power and make decisions that were best for my mental and emotional well-being. In the days that followed, Jessica and I agreed to take a step back from our shared life. She moved into the guest room, a physical representation of the emotional distance we needed to create. While it felt strange to have her so close yet so far away, I knew it was necessary for both of us. As much as she wanted to prove her commitment, I couldn't ignore the nagging voice in my head reminding me of the hurt she had caused. During this time, I leaned heavily on my support system, friends who were willing to listen, offer advice, or simply share a drink to help me unwind. I found solace in their company, and it reminded me of the importance of maintaining strong connections outside of my marriage. I also took up running again, something I had put off for years. It became my outlet for all the pent-up emotions I was experiencing. The rhythm of my feet hitting the pavement felt meditative, a release of the anxiety that had become a constant companion. One evening, after a particularly intense run, I returned home feeling lighter. I found Jessica sitting at the kitchen table, her head resting on her hands, deep in thought. I had almost forgotten how familiar this scene felt. It was reminiscent of the countless hours we had spent together in that very spot, discussing life, dreams, and everything in between. I approached her slowly, tension hanging in the air. "Hey," I said softly, hoping to break the silence. "What's on your mind?" She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed as if she had been crying. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she said, her voice shaky. "I know I hurt you and I want to take full responsibility for that. I've realized that I can't expect you to just forgive me without showing you how committed I am to changing." Her sincerity struck a chord within me. Part of me wanted to believe her, to think that she could truly change, but another part felt the weight of caution. "What does that mean for us?" I asked, my heart racing. "What do you want?" "I want to earn your trust back, Alex. I want to prove that I can be the partner you deserve," she replied earnestly. "I'm willing to cut all ties with him and focus on rebuilding our relationship. I'll do whatever it takes, even if it means starting from scratch. I love you and I don't want to lose you." I took a moment to process her words. I could see the determination in her eyes, and for the first time since the affair came to light, I felt a flicker of hope. Yet I understood that words alone wouldn't be enough. Trust takes time, and I needed to see consistent actions backing up her promises. "Okay," I said slowly, "but this isn't just about words. You need to show me that you're serious. I can't just jump back into this without knowing that you're fully committed." "Absolutely," she agreed, her voice filled with conviction. "I know I have a lot to prove and I'm ready to do the work." We continued to talk, discussing what rebuilding our relationship could look like. It meant establishing boundaries and being transparent about our feelings. I expressed my need for space to process everything we had been through, and she understood. We agreed to check in with each other regularly, to communicate openly about our feelings as we navigated this new territory. That night, as we sat in the kitchen, I felt a blend of hope and trepidation. It was a small step forward, but I knew we had a long road ahead. The trust that had been shattered wouldn't come back overnight, but we were both willing to put in the effort. As the weeks passed, I began to see the small changes in Jessica. She was more attentive, more present, and genuinely made an effort to create an environment of openness. We started spending quality time together again, taking walks, cooking meals, and even having movie nights. Each small moment felt like a step towards healing, but I remained cautious. I often reminded myself that actions spoke louder than words, and I needed to stay vigilant. One evening, as we sat together on the couch watching a movie, I turned to her and said, "You know, it's nice to feel like we're becoming partners again. But I still have moments where I struggle with everything that happened. I need you to understand that it's not just going to disappear." "I get that," she replied, her expression sincere. "And I'm here for you whenever you need to talk. I won't shy away from it anymore. I want us to be open about our feelings, even if it gets uncomfortable." That commitment meant a lot to me. Slowly, the cracks of our relationship began to feel less like a chasm and more like a fissure we could work to mend. I was learning to communicate my feelings without reservation, while Jessica was demonstrating her dedication to change. But just as I started to feel a sense of stability returning, the unexpected happened again. One afternoon, while cleaning out a drawer in our home office, I stumbled upon an envelope. It wasn't just any envelope. It was the same one that contained a letter from the immigration office regarding Jessica's citizenship application. At that moment, the weight of everything she had done came crashing back. I felt a tight knot form in my stomach as I considered the implications of what I had found. Inside the envelope was a set of documents, and as I glanced through them, my heart sank. There were notes scrawled by Jessica, plans for her life in the U.S., ideas for a future that included her instructor. I felt anger surge through me at the betrayal. Had she been thinking about her life with him even as she was trying to rebuild with me? I had to confront her again. But this time, it wouldn't just be about feelings. It would be about the reality of her choices and intentions. I needed to know if her commitment to us was genuine, or if there were still lingering thoughts of the life she might have wanted without me. The revelation felt like a punch to the gut, and I wasn't sure how she would react. But I knew one thing. I needed to get to the bottom of this before I could truly start to rebuild my life. I stood there, the envelope clutched tightly in my hand, my mind racing as I tried to process the implications of what I had found. This wasn't just about infidelity anymore. It was about her future and the choices she had made. I felt the tension building within me as I headed towards the living room where Jessica was reading a book on the couch. "Jessica," I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me, "we need to talk." She looked up, her expression shifting from casual interest to concern as she noticed the envelope in my hand. "What's that?" I dropped onto the couch across from her, holding the envelope out. "I found this in the office. It's your immigration paperwork, and it looks like you've been planning your future without me in mind." Her eyes widened in shock, and for a moment she was speechless. "Alex, don't," I interrupted, feeling the anger bubbling up again. "You said you wanted to build a life with me, but this shows something different. What exactly were you thinking?" She took a deep breath, her hands trembling as she reached for the envelope. "I didn't mean for you to find that. I had been rewriting my plans after everything that happened. I thought maybe if I showed you that I could be independent, it would help you trust me more." "Independent," I repeated, anger rising. "You think that's what I want?" "I want honesty and loyalty, not some half-hearted attempt to convince me you can thrive on your own. Have you even considered the possibility that I want to be part of your future, too?" Her face fell and regret washed over her features. "I never wanted to hurt you, Alex. I just felt so lost after everything. I thought if I started planning, it would give us both direction. I'm still figuring things out." "Figuring things out," I echoed, struggling to keep my voice steady. "You're still emotionally tethered to him, even if you wanted to convince yourself otherwise. You can't expect me to believe you're committed to us while you're holding on to thoughts of what could have been with him. I need to know if you actually want a life with me." "I do, I want a life with you," she insisted, her voice rising in frustration. "I messed up, but I'm ready to do what it takes to rebuild our relationship. I'm trying to show you I can change." "Change? Change doesn't happen in isolation, Jessica." I shot back, feeling the weight of my emotions crashing down on me. "You've said all of this before, and I need actions, not just words. You need to let go of the past and truly commit to this relationship. You need to show me that I'm your priority." As I spoke, I felt the knot in my stomach tighten. I had wanted to see the best in her, to believe in our future together, but I felt like I was losing ground again. We had made progress, but this revelation was a setback I hadn't anticipated. Jessica looked at me, her eyes filling with tears. "I'm so sorry, Alex. I thought if I could map out my life, I could show you that I'm serious about us. I don't want to lose you. I love you." Her words struck a chord, but I needed to protect myself. "Love isn't enough right now, Jess. You need to show me that you're willing to let go of the past and commit fully to this relationship. I can't keep living with one foot out the door, waiting for you to decide what you want." "I understand," she replied, her voice shaky. "I will show you. I promise I'll cut all ties with him and focus on rebuilding our life together. I want to be with you, Alex. I want a future with you, and I'll do anything to prove it." I pondered her words, grappling with the uncertainty that still lingered. "You need to prove it, and it needs to be consistent. I can't keep going back and forth. If we're going to try, you have to make it clear that I'm your priority." "I will," she promised, wiping away her tears. "I'll do whatever it takes, just give me that chance." In that moment, something shifted within me. I realized that while I couldn't control Jessica's actions, I could control my response. I could choose to give her another chance, but I also needed to set clear boundaries. We were on shaky ground, but I had faith in our ability to navigate it together. "I'll give you a chance," I said finally, my voice firm, "but it will require patience and effort from both of us. I need to see you take concrete steps towards rebuilding our trust. I won't settle for anything less." She nodded, relief washing over her face. "Thank you, Alex. I won't let you down again. I'll be transparent, I'll communicate, and I'll show you that I'm committed to us." As we sat there, a tentative hope sparked between us. It wouldn't be easy, and the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but we were both willing to put in the work. I felt a renewed sense of determination, and while the shadows of betrayal would always linger in the background, I was ready to take the next step. In the days that followed, I watched Jessica as she began to actively sever ties with her past. She cut off communication with the instructor, and we started rebuilding our relationship piece by piece. Even during our setbacks, there was a willingness to confront the past together, to acknowledge the pain while also fostering a sense of hope for the future. I learned that healing is not linear. It's messy, complicated, and often painful. But through it all, I also discovered that love could be resilient. With open communication and a commitment to change, we began to forge a new path, one that was built on honesty, vulnerability, and a shared desire to create a life together. As I reflected on this journey, I realized that while I had faced one of the most painful experiences of my life, I had also emerged stronger and more self-aware. I learned the importance of self-advocacy and understanding my own worth. I had been through the fire, and while I still had scars, I felt ready to embrace whatever came next together.